Hey, so today all we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to choose which method to use to solve your triangle. So we've got four different methods. We've got Pythagorean Theorem, which we learned in grade 8 and 9. We've got SohCahToa, which we learned last year and we reviewed this year. And then we have our Sine Law and we have our Cosine Law. Okay, so we've got to decide which of these four methods is always best for our triangle. Okay, so one thing that I want you to remember right off the bat is these two, Pythagorean Theorem and SohCahToa, are always better for right angle triangles. These two are good for non-right angle triangles. All right, so let's look at the first example. So our first example is this a right angle triangle or not a right angle triangle? Well, it has no little square in it, so it's not a right angle triangle. Okay, so the next thing we have to decide is, are we using sine law or cosine law? So remember what we need to think about. We need to think, can we set up a sine ratio? Okay, so remember sine law says that sine A over A is equal to sine B over B is equal to sine C over C. Okay, so now let's look at this. I have a ratio here, right? 22 and 24. So that means for B, I can fill in 22 degrees and I can fill in 24 centimeters. Okay? As soon as I have a ratio, then I can use the sine law. Okay? So as soon as I have a ratio, I can use the sine law. So this one, I would want to use the sine law. Okay? So as soon as I have an opposite angle and a side, sine law is good. Okay, so this one, right angle triangle or not a right angle triangle? Well, it's got a little square here, so it's definitely a right angle triangle. Okay? Now, can I use the Pythagorean theorem or do I need to use SohCahToa? Well, I have two sides. I'm looking for the third side. So that's just a simple a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. That's Pythagorean theorem. So if I know two sides and I'm missing a third one, Pythagorean theorem. Next one. So not a right angle triangle, so it's got to be sine law or cosine law. So let's try to do our ratios, right? So let's call this A, B, C. So for A, I don't have a ratio because I'm missing that. For B, I don't have a ratio because I'm missing the angle. And for C, I don't have a ratio because I'm missing the angle. So I have no ratios, which means that I have to use the cosine law. Okay? So whenever there's no ratios, I use the cosine law. And finally, this one is a right angle triangle, so that means either Pythagorean or SohCahToa, but I don't have two sides, and I'm trying to find a third side. I have an angle and a side, which means I have to use SohCahToa. Okay? So that's it. That's all there is to it. We have to decide, is it a right angle triangle? And then if it's not, I have to decide if I have ratios or not. If I have ratios, sine law. If I don't have ratios, cosine law. All right, that's all.